Come on, Senator David.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for being in attendance today. We're excited about the presentations you're going to see this morning. Just because we want to be respectful of everybody's time, we've got a lot of information to get through today. We're going to forego on the Pledge of Allegiance and officially opening up the meeting. We're going to just jump right into things. So the format today is meant to be sort of informal, casual. We've got a presentation today coming up by Condominium Associates here in just a minute. And they're going to be sort of moving around the room, talking about their company, what they have in mind to help and support us, our community. And we'll also have some microphones available. So Jane will be working the microphone for this side of the room. Val's going to be working the microphone for this side of the room. So anybody that has a question that would like to speak up, they're going to come rushing over to you to get you that microphone so we can kind of keep the momentum of this meeting moving along quickly. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our two presenters today from Condominium Associates. We have Kathy Bramhall, and by popular demand, Simon Gallo. He's here to make it his own today. So with that, I'm going to turn it right over to you, Kathy, and take it away. We've got about an hour, folks, for this presentation. We're going to do the presentation in 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes, and then turn it right into Q&A. But again, don't hesitate to raise your hand and ask questions along the way. So we want you to learn as much as you can from these two companies. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kathy Bramhall. I'm Executive Vice President of Sales and Retention for Condominium Associates. And we're here today to talk about our company, which has been in business since 1982. We have offices in Pasco County, on Harbor Island, downtown Tampa, in the St. Pete area is where our main office is, and then we have an office in Sarasota. I handle business from the Hernando County line down to Sarasota, Venice. So we just focus on the west coast of Florida. We're not national or publicly traded. So you have a local atmosphere of a mom and pop shop, but that has quite a few resources. We have 400 employees company-wide. We manage a little over 410 associations company-wide as well. So you have all the resources of a large company being more a small mom and pop for you. So just to let you know, we are not large national publicly traded. You'll get that very home feel, I guess you could say. Communication is what we're very driven by, and that is to keep everyone informed of the day-to-day operations and all the things going on in your community. For today's purposes, we're really going to talk about financial services only model, but we also provide services for all that you have in your community. We can do full service management as well as just financial services only. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what we offer in that financial services program. So one of the big options for you is that we offer you a web portal that's going to house all your governing documents, your meeting minutes, your financial statements. You can pay your association dues on the web portal by e-check or credit card. You'll be able to put in work orders, and we will track violation letters on that web portal as well. The web portal is going to have easy access, so if you have clickers or stickers, or if you want to pay for, you have a benefit coming up or an event coming up, or a musical person is coming in to do something, you can pay for all those things online. We can also do old-fashioned, where we just take a check from you and you can pay your dues by check and coupon. So any way that you want to pay your dues or pay for things, we can arrange for that. Also, within what we offer for your services for accounting only, you will receive a monthly financial report. And in that financial report, we're going to also include a list of banks that we work with in your area so that we can get you the biggest bang for your buck on your reserve money. So we'll list all the different banks we work with their money market, CD, and CDAR rates so that we can invest well for you. Especially in this environment, we can at least get you 5%, and that's better than what we used to get. Although I do remember back about 25 years ago when I started in this industry over 30 years ago, where we were getting a lot more for our interest, right? Back in the 80s. So also part of what we do is we'll help you to prepare tax returns and year-end audits, reviews, or compilations that you do. We do that by a third party so that they can check our work to make sure that we're doing the right thing for you. As part of that monthly financial statement, you'll receive a balance sheet, an income statement. You'll also receive receivable reports. You'll also receive check registers, those kinds of things. Homeowners will have a more limited view, and board members will have an entire view of all of the package of the financial program that we offer. Also within that package, we're going to offer you IT services. So if you have IT services that are needed, if you have computer issues, if you need to do updates, any kind of little things, we offer IT services along with that. And we also offer maintenance services. If you ever needed maintenance services, I know you have maintenance teams on site here, but if you ever needed a second set of hands, we can do that. We have a company called Ally that is our maintenance company that can come out and do little projects for you, or big ones, or whatever it is you need. They're not general contractors, but they can do little projects for you if you needed help with something. In addition to the financial program, we're going to also offer you training. So your association employees are going to need to know how to work our systems, right? So they're going to need to know how to work our web portal, how we pay dues, how they can look up your accounts, so that if you come to the office and want to just ask a question about, did I pay my association dues? The administrative team on site, your GM, other folks will all know how to use the web portal. So we're offering not just use of the web portal for your team, we're going to offer training, and we have a trainer within our company that's full-time, that all she does is train. So she's going to come on site, train your staff, and then be at their disposal at any time, and that's just all included in our management fee. Do we have any questions so far? Because I'm going kind of fast, because I know we have limited time. No questions so far? Yes.
What is going to be the cost?
The cost is $6,200 a month.
And that includes the web portal, or that's a different?
Yes, it includes it. Yes, and it includes the web portal, it includes a trainer, it includes everything that I've talked about today. There would be no additional cost for anything. We also talked about administrative costs as well. So administrative costs you really won't bear, because most of that's all going to be done here on site. So anything that you do on site, we don't charge for. There's no markup. It's just all of what you use here on site is what you use, and there's no cost. Yes.
When you say IT support, does that include on-site in the office, in the administration building, IT support?
Yes, we can have somebody come anytime they need IT support to come. So if they're having an issue with the computer, they'll just put in a ticket, and then we'll have an IT person come out and help them. They can also remote into the computer too, so they don't necessarily have to come out to the property, but they can remote in and do those things as well. Yeah. Yes.
Let's get to you.
Let's start using the mic so the people at home can hear the questions.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
What bookkeeping program do you use? Right now, we're using QuickBooks. We have outgrown it.
Yes, so we use Sync Systems. It's CINC is the name of the software. And Sync is our accounting module, and they also have the web portal. So you have Sync and Sync Web Access. They talk to one another, so everything's in real time. And that way, if you pay your association dues here on property, we'll provide a scanner so that you can write checks, and they'll just scan it right into the system. It'll be in real time. So you could come here and literally scan your check, have the office scan your check, go home, and it's already posted to your account.
So you'll switch everything from QuickBooks
Yes.
to Sync.
We have to.
Is there an additional cost for this program?
No, there is not. That's included in our management fee.
Okay, if your company doesn't work out for us and we decide to cancel the contract, is there a penalty? And what happens with the bookkeeping program?
So you don't have to worry about that, because everything that we do, we would just put on a thumb drive, give to a new management company. We also would give all the books and records that we would have as paper copies as well. So it's a very smooth transition if something were to happen.
Are you a management company or a financial company?
We are both.
And they're looking at hiring you to do
Just the
Both?
financials.
Just the
right now.
financials?
Yes, yes. Did you have a question?
I do, but I gotta remember it.
Okay, that's okay.
It's called being a senior. Oh,
Good morning, Bill. What is, you keep saying pay our dues every month, but how much of a dues are we talking?
I really don't know what your association dues are, to be honest with you.
Would it be the same as we've been paying?
I believe so, yes,
Yeah, we're paying 50 right now.
yes, that would remain the same.
Okay, thank you.
You talk about these groups that come out and help you do projects and all that stuff. Is it, you pay them? We pay them, we pay them, we pay them.
I didn't hear what you said originally.
When you said the groups that come out and do little projects for us, stuff like that.
Okay, so if we have IT services come out, or if we have a trainer come out, that's all gonna be included in your management fee.
What about yard work? Stuff like that?
Well, that's all would be your existing vendors. So whatever vendors you currently have in place are gonna stay. Nothing changes. Your staff members won't change, all your employees won't change. We're just gonna help do payroll. So the staff members will remain the same, your landscape vendor will remain the same, and any other vendors that you use for anything is all gonna remain the same.
Thank
We
you.
don't come in initially, upset the apple cart and start firing people. That's not how we work.
So are we gonna have a contract with you?
Yes, you will have a contract with us.
And how many years will that contract be for?
That's up to you folks. I can do as little as a 1-year contract, and I can do as much as a 3-year contract.
If we did a 3-year contract, do you have an idea of the estimate percentage of the amount that's gonna go up every year?
I can lock in the management fee for the term of the agreement.
So it would say, it said it's 62, you're saying if we locked in for 3 years?
Sure. Yes.
Okay,
If you handle all the payments, will there be no more on-site payments at the administration building or any of that?
No, what we're gonna do is we're gonna bring a scanner in, and that scanner will allow us to just have the employees on site scan the checks directly into the bank. So yes, you can still pay your dues here.
Are you gonna provide a CPA for us?
Yes, at the end of the year for your tax returns, we'll hire a CPA to do your tax returns and one to do your, if you do an audit every year, a third-party vendor will also do your audit so that they can check our books.
That's all included in the 62.
No, that would be an additional vendor that we would contract and get you 3 bids so that you guys can pick which one you'd like to use, but that would be an additional cost, an additional contractor. Yes.
Okay, since our books haven't been reconciled and closed out for 2024, will you just start with our starting figures for 25, or will you have a CPA go back to the beginning of 24 to reconcile?
Well, it depends when we start. So if you haven't filed your taxes by the time we start, then we can assist you, but taxes need to be filed by April 15th unless you file an extension. So
Right.
if you haven't done it, we can help you to do it. If you've already done it, then we'll just take those records and start from December's year-end numbers and start in January based on those year-end numbers for 24.
But they're not reconciled right now.
Right, I would assume not because it's only February. Usually it takes a couple months.
Right, but they didn't sign the agreement with the CPA, so nothing's been reconciled for the whole year.
It's okay. It's not a big deal.
I pay my HOA fees through my bank, so I don't write a check. Will we
Okay.
still have that ability to send it to the office that way?
Absolutely. You can have your bank send us a check, or we can take it directly out of your bank account if you'd like to set up ACH with us.
Thank you.
Yes.
Go ahead. You got one.
Go ahead.
Hi, so basically, what we got you here for, basically you're not taking any responsibility for our accounting. It's going to third parties and we're paying extra for that.
No,
So
no, no.
we're in the same boat we're at right now,
No,
as
no,
far as
no.
I'm concerned.
No, I think you misunderstand. So we will handle your monthly financial statements and we'll provide you with monthly reports, and we're gonna manage the payroll for your staff and everything. The only thing that's gonna be subcontracted out is the year-end tax return and audit. That's it.
Okay, so how are we gonna go about that when we're not even up to date with what we are right now? We still have to go back with the accountants that we had previous to get to where we are, to get to where we're supposed to be.
And that's okay.
So as far as what you guys are doing, we're still in the same boat. You're not gonna be responsible for previous. So we're not really taking it fair. Previous, what's going on now?
Yeah, I can't be responsible
No,
for
they're not,
something
I
I don't do.
understand. Yeah, but what are we fixing? We don't have information from one phone.
I think what the goal is to hire a management company that can manage the financial services and that could eventually even manage the management piece of your association, not just financial services. And so in the beginning, what we're doing is we're just doing the financials from the point that our contract starts going forward. That's how it typically works.
Our goal is to try to have this company help us from day one when they start to
Yes,
fix our future. They can't
Yes.
fix our past.
correct.
Okay, my question is, our community, oh, I'm right here. Our community voted for a forensic audit. Does your company have the capability to provide us with that if necessary?
We don't do those in-house. That would be a third-party vendor, but we would find you 3 bids, and then you'd choose the vendor that you'd like to use to do your audit for you.
Thank
Because you really always want to have an audit done by an outside company so that they can check your records, whoever's doing your financial statements at that time. It's never a good idea to have one company that's a one-stop shop for taxes and audits and doing your monthly financial, because then you have no checks and balances. And that's really important. One thing that I didn't touch on is fraud. There's a lot of fraud going on right now in our industry. And I'm sure you're laughing because I'm sure you've had things happen just to us individually with our own personal bank accounts. So what we do to prevent that is we have a certified fraud examiner on staff in our company, and she's on the board of fraud examiners. And Lola makes sure that everything stays legal, that stays above board, and that we're checking for fraud on a daily basis. And what I mean by that is we're gonna reconcile your bank accounts every morning for all accounts that have more than $10,000 in them, to make sure that money is not being stolen or trying to be stolen out of your bank accounts. Because we've caught, I would say, around probably $600,000 in money that was trying to be stolen from our accounts, from our different associations. And because we reconcile every day, Monday through Friday, we have caught that before it's occurred. So none of our associations have ever been out any money. We take fraud very seriously within our company, because a lot of it is rampant right now in our industry. And if you ask other management companies, there, I don't think is one that can't tell you they have had at least some type of fraud, whether it was from an employee embezzling money or someone just outside a vendor or somebody just trying to steal money. They've all had issues, and some associations have actually been out money because they've had $200,000 or $300,000 stolen from employees. So it's a big deal for fraud these days, and we take it very seriously. Yes.
Okay, that brings me to my next question. Do you work with the attorneys we currently have, or do you have?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All your vendors will remain the same.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes.
So will you be overseeing where, when a project is done, where the money is actually coming out, that it's appropriately coming out of reserves or general operating?
Well, that's not a determination that we can make. That's something that your people have to tell us. So when an invoice comes into the system, it's going to be uploaded into the system. Your on-site general manager will code the invoice, approve it, and then it'll go to the next step, which is typically going to be the treasurer, possibly also the president, that would approve invoices before a check's actually cut. So the coding of those invoices, which is I think what you're talking about, where is the money going to be coming from, is gonna be determined by your general manager, because you're already gonna have that set in place where those funds are gonna come from. So he'll know exactly where to code those invoices.
So as far as the spending, that's all gonna be determined still by our current board and our GM,
Oh,
as far as
absolutely.
where it's coming from?
Yes, we're just managing your money. We're not making any decisions for you. We're not signing contracts for you. All of that is all still done by you and by the association.
So as far as managing money, you just mean as far as posting things into our profit and loss, as far as correcting our assessments, but decisions otherwise is not in your hands?
Correct. We don't make decisions. We just present you with information so the board can make educated decisions.
So then will you be preparing our annual budget, or will that still remain with our finance committee as to prepare the budget?
We typically put a budget shell together for you, and then we give that to the finance committee so that they have something to start with. And then they can go in and tweak those numbers and change things and add things and do all that.
Thank you.
Yes.
So, you're not involved in our budgeting. You're not involved in our decision-making. You're just a rubber stamp company to make sure that the checks go where they're supposed to. Is that correct?
Well, I wouldn't call it that per se.
So tell me the difference.
Well, the difference is we're going to also help to make sure that your staff is being paid, that you're staying legal with meeting minutes and board meetings and those kinds of things. And I've been in this industry for 30 years. So the board is always welcome to call me with questions if they have questions, or if they need clarification on statutory issues and things, and they don't call the attorney, those kinds of things. So you have a team. It's not just one person doing your financials and rubber stamping things. You're gonna have a team approach from our company. So you're gonna have IT, you're gonna have trainers, you're gonna have myself, you'll have a regional manager that will oversee this, and then you'll also have your general manager, and you'll have your on-site staff that we'll work with on a daily basis. So it's more of a team approach is the way I look at it.
So we'll still have our in-house bookkeeper?
I don't know the answer to that because I'm not sure exactly how you're set up with all of your staff folks, but we would need somebody here on site that can scan checks and that can accept invoices and put those into the system and that kind of thing. So I'm not sure exactly what the board has in mind as far as staffing.
Okay. Since our 2025 budget did not pass and we're working off the 24 budget, there was no line item approved by the residents for a finance company. So how does your company plan on adjusting our 2024 budget to pay for your services?
I don't know because I haven't seen your budget or even a proposed budget. So that I believe is up to the board on how they're going to pay for that and what their plan is.
So have you seen any of our financial records?
No, I have not. That's not good.
My question is, you said that you're going to produce a monthly financial, an income statement with a balance sheet. Is it going to be comparative to any like last year's figures or anything like that? Or is it just going to be strictly this year's figures?
Well, what we do is part of our package is we don't have prior year numbers necessarily, but you're going to have a trailing 12 months. So if we say we start in April, we're going to have the financial statement, and in that package is going to show you April through or January through December. We're going to plug in numbers so that you can see the trailing 12 months of everything. Prior numbers, the only thing that's going to carry over is your year-end number for your prior year carryover. So that number will come on, but nothing else will be in there. It will be 2025 numbers.
So if we have a financial in April, say we have a financial in April.
Sure.
The accounts payable figure would be compared to last year's accounts payable figure from April to December.
No, it's only going to have April.
It's only going to have our April figure.
Correct. It'll have April's number. It'll have what you budgeted for this year.
Okay.
And it'll have a comparison. So it'll have to, if you're over or under budget on certain items.
Okay. And you said there was limited access for residents. Why is that? I mean, there's a lot of residents out here that have accounting experience that would like to know what's in that accounts payable or accounts receivable number, exactly what's in it. Now,
Well, and you can ask for that, that's not a problem. Typically, we don't offer a full package for everybody to see because that full package includes bank statements and all kinds of things that we don't really want to give out to folks. So that's why we call it.
But it's our money. It's our money, so we should be able to
We
see
understand that, but we also have to protect things from fraud as well. So giving.
We can't change anything, though. We can still look at everything.
Sure, and if you wanted to request that information, we would be happy to provide it to you.
So we would request that from you.
You can request it from us, or you could request it from your general manager or someone on site that could give you access or provide you with documents that you'd like to have. It's just a records request, just like anybody would do statutorily.
But if you have a web portal, we should be able to. Can we go on the portal and say, go to the accounts payable figure and drill down and see what's in that number?
No.
You can't do that.
No, because that would be giving you full access to the bank account.
Can you do that?
Yes.
So if I was to call you and say, oh, I want to know what's in accounts receivable for the month of May, you can drill down and tell me exactly what came in for money and where it came from.
You can talk to your on-site person, yes, and they can tell you that information, yes.
Okay, yeah, but.
Kathy, when you have a minute, can you also talk about the experiences you see on a daily basis at the different HOAs that you're managing, the amount of time each day it takes for somebody to do sort of a scan and put the information into your system? You know, they were asking about, do we need a full-time bookkeeper, I guess is the question. And I think in some of the dialogues we've had, that effort is down to maybe an hour, hour and a half every day, and that's really all that's required,
Sure.
right? So maybe you could talk a little bit about that as well.
Yes, so if your on-site staff is going to be getting invoices from vendors, they're going to be scanning checks into the system, so your on-site staff will still be actively involved in everything that goes on with the day-to-day operations of your association, definitely. And we don't think that, we think that there will be time savings just because our computer system for sync is state-of-the-art, so it's gonna save you a lot of time, which saves you money. So in turn, all of that information will be at your disposal and it's a click of a button. So we set everything up from your collection policy as an example. We're gonna make sure that we follow your current collection policy and we just click a button to say, for instance, if your associations are due by the 1st of the month, but they're late on the 15th, we're gonna click a button to say on the 15th, there will automatically be a late notice that will go out to the owners at whatever time frames that the association has given us. And that information then will be set in the system, so there's no manual, somebody going in and has to remember to send out late notices or something. It's gonna automatically process immediately once that deadline is occurred.
How much time will you spend on site? Will there be a company rep, you on site all the time?
No, we will not have anybody on site. If you've not hired us to manage, you've only hired us for the financial part of it. So your staff will still remain in place here. Our staff in our office will be doing your financial statements remotely from our main office.
So we'll never see you.
No, that's not true. You're gonna probably see our trainer out here regularly, making sure that everybody understands how to use all the systems. And then when we need IT, is gonna be out here. And if you ever need us, just let me know. I mean, if you need me to come to a board meeting to help, to a budget meeting to help, whatever you need, just call me. My services I would provide at no cost to the association. So if you ever needed anything, you could always call me and I'm happy to come out.
Thank you.
We've just not been contracted to have anybody on site full time.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes.
So right now, according to our governing documents, in order to move money like in CDs, roll them over, open up a CDR, change bank accounts, it has to be the majority vote of our board.
Okay.
Are we relinquishing that?
No.
By giving, well, you said you're gonna tell us what banks to go into, invest our money in CDs. Doesn't that have to be all brought before our board?
It does. So what I meant to say by that was that we're gonna provide you with a list of the different banks we work with and what all the different rates are. And then the board makes the decision what banks they want to go with. And maybe it's not a bank that's on our list, maybe it's another bank that you guys want to use, which is fine with us too. So it's going to be up to the board which banks they decide to use for CDs, CDARs, money markets. Just the operating account has to be with the bank that we work with so that everything is done efficiently and in real time. But as far as investments, whatever you folks want to do, it's going to be up to you. We're just going to give you the tool to make educated decisions. We're not here to tell you you have this and you have to do that. We're just going to say, here's your options. Now, what would you like to do? So none of that will change. The board will still have to authorize CDs, CDARs, money markets, however you have that in place now, that will remain the same.
So basically, you're only working with our operating. You're not going to be doing anything with our reserve funding or anything else. Your basically only concern is with our operating, where the money's placed, how the bills are being paid, how the vendors are
Not
being handled.
necessarily, because we're still gonna have to make sure that your bills get paid through the operating account and the reserve account, and that money is transferred to the reserve account on a monthly basis based on your budget transfers that you have in the budget listed to go from operating to reserves. So all of that's still gonna be handled by us as well, according to your budget and according to the directives given by the board.
Then do you not have to have access to the bank where the reserves would be, that if we're paying a bill for a major repair, a new roof or something, that you can take that money out of the reserve banking or the CDs and transfer it in? So it's not just general operating, you're also gonna have to have access to our reserve accounting.
Correct, yes.
I was saying, my basic cost of this is $6,200 a month. That's your basic, but then anything beyond that is extra cost, like the CPA and whatever third party.
Yes, to do your tax returns and your year-end audit would be a third-party vendor.
So anything that's third party, we get charged extra beyond.
Right, just like your landscaper, your pool person, or vendors that you use here.
So how do we do a line item on that?
I'm sorry, say that
How
again.
do we cover that with a line item?
How do we cover that?
Yeah,
I don't know, that's up to your board, how they want to budget for all of this.
so we've got a budget for a certain amount of money for you. So anything beyond that, we're gonna have to cover it somehow.
Now, I'm not sure how that's going to happen because I've never seen a budget, so I don't know how it's being proposed.
Will your company write the checks?
Yes, we will.
And will you have the authority to sign them, or does somebody,
Yes, we will sign them in-house.
okay?
Once it's approved by the board and by the GM that will enter the information.
Okay, and our operating account, you said something about, will that be at a bank that you designate, or do we still use our present bank?
No, you'd have to use our bank that we work with because that bank talks to our accounting software, so everything's in real time. So we don't have to do manual transactions for everything.
And what bank do you presently use?
We use Popular Bank.
Popular Bank?
We do.
Where are they based out of?
They have an office in Miami, I believe, New York. They don't have one local here in Brooksville, but that's why we bring a scanner on site, so you don't have to go to the bank. You can just come here if you want to pay your dues with a check. You don't have to find a bank to go to. You can just come here and pay. And you can pay online.
Good morning. I just have a question right here. Is it safe to assume that communities of our size have financial professionals running their business?
Yes, it's typically unusual to have a self-managed association of your size.
Thank you.
I think right here in the front, the plaid shirt. Right next to you.
So this is a two-part.
Yes.
Traditionally, we've had issues where in accounting, people have credited expenditures to the wrong categories. Will you be able to see when that happens? And if not, where's the benefit? And secondly, you guys go real fast, but if we're not saving payroll, where is our savings out of this?
I don't know that the object of this was to save money. I think it was to have better service levels. I don't know that it was not can't speak for the board, so I don't know what their objective was for this, but I was never told that it was an effort to save money in any fashion. And to answer your question about general ledger codings that may be coded incorrectly by the GM, we can go in and make journal entries at any time to put it to the right account, but we're not gonna always know. So the person that is processing your financial statement, or someone in our accounting department and accounts payable that's writing the checks, they're not gonna know exactly where to code those things to, because you may have, say for instance, if you have a specific project that you're working on, and you wanted that money to come out of something that was maybe an unusual account, we're not gonna know where that should go necessarily. So we're gonna process it based on what the GM codes it to, and then if there's an error made by the GM coding, then we can go in and make journal entries and make sure that the board has approved those journal entries, and then we can make those changes to the financial statement before we produce the month-end financial.
But you can't find an error, you're just correcting errors. And the very nature of an error is that they don't know they made it, unless it's purposeful. So there's no policing quality to this.
Well, the policing quality is fraud, making sure that you don't have fraud occurring, making sure that everything is reconciled, that all the receipts are reconciled, that nothing's happening on site. There are certain things that are going to be out of our control because we don't have full service management of your association. We're only going to be handling the financial end of it. So if we were full service management, it would be a different story. Then we would have more input and more say and more involvement. But at this point in time, we've only been directed to do the financial statements themselves and to leave the staff the way it is.
Right, okay, yes, I understand that. So tell me now, how do you detect internal fraud if it's purposeful? If somebody manipulates money and it disappears, how do you detect this?
Well, it's fairly easy to figure that out, to be honest with you, because it usually involves if somebody has a credit card and they're using a credit card for fraudulent activity, we require receipts for every purchase that's made, whether it's petty cash or whether it's a credit card, and we check those numbers and receipts against the statement to make sure that there's no fraud occurring. We reconcile the bank accounts on a daily basis to make sure fraud is not occurring. We produce the financial statement, and the year-end numbers all have to balance and match. So everything from last month has to match and balance so that this month goes forward. So any anomalies that we're going to find within that statement, we're going to immediately bring to the attention of the board.
And I'm sorry, but I don't have the microphone, but when you find an anomaly and you bring it to the board, are we aware of it? Are we notified as a resident?
No, just the board would be at that time.
Why would that be? Why wouldn't it be a general statement?
Well, if the board would like for us to do that, we can. It's up to the board. We take direction from the board. We don't just make those decisions on our own.
Well, I understand that, but if there is an issue in my bank account, I want to know that there's an issue in my bank account.
Sure.
It's the same principle.
It's just difficult to do that with 2,830 people.
Not with technology.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, the board probably would not necessarily provide that level of granular detail to that many folks. But the board can do whatever they'd like to do. If the board wants to make everything public, that's the board's choice.
The potential for problems would be turned back to the people who have probably caused the issues. So you're creating a cycle of problems. If you find a problem, you turn it back to the person that caused the problem. Where's their?
No, I don't think that. So if we find a problem, we're going to bring it to the board. And if it's an egregious problem that we found where there's theft within the board itself, like say not that this would ever occur because you have great board members, but say the board is embezzling money, we're going to go to the DBPR and to the police.
Oh, that's what I was.
I mean, yeah, because if we see fraudulent activity that's going on, that's beyond us just telling the board, hey, one of your employees has done this, or, a homeowner's done that, or a vendor or something, then we will absolutely take action. Yes.
Question, you said once the checks are written and everything, they'll be signed in-house here.
Correct.
They're
No,
signed.
no, no, they're gonna be signed in our office, in our St. Pete office.
Okay, so then one of your employees has to be on our accounts.
Yes, absolutely, there will be two. Our director of accounting and our CEO are signers on your bank account.
So none of our board members will any longer have ability to sign checks? Is that what you're
To
saying?
physically sign, no. There will be no physical checks on site for anyone to sign.
And what about somebody who brings cash in? We have residents that pay their fines, violation, HOAs with cash. How do you deal with the cash?
We typically do not take cash because that's where fraud can occur. Because if you take cash, an employee can pocket cash, anybody can pocket cash. It's not a good idea if you want to have strict fraud prevention. You would not take cash for anything anymore. But that would be up to the board. We'd have to talk to the board about that. What I discussed was possibly having one of those squares that you could just come and swipe a credit card if you wanted to pay for something, or you could do it on the web portal. But taking cash is very risky.
So you'll be no longer, if this goes through, you'll no longer be accepting cash, which thus makes it not resident friendly. There are people who don't have checking accounts.
Well, if you don't have a checking account, you don't have a credit card, and all you're doing is paying by cash, you can always go get a money order. Yeah. The object here is to make it convenient for everyone to pay, but it's also to prevent fraud. Because when you take cash, it's just never a good idea because you just don't know what can happen and you don't want to be out money because it's your money. We're talking about money that you all have paid into or have invested, your money into. So if other people within the community or anybody in the office is trying to take your money, I think that you would rather have somebody pay by e-check or credit card or the Square or some other means so that you know that you don't have fraud occurring because you don't take cash. Yes, in the corner. So her question was, yes, so her question was, is there a fee if someone pays by credit card or e-check or credit card on the web portal? Yes, the bank charges a fee for that. I believe it's $1.99. It's not a fee that we charge, but yes, the bank does charge for e-checks, and then credit cards is a percentage interest, a percentage that is charged by the bank.
Okay, I just got a question. You said it's $6,200 a month. Excuse me. For 60, you say it's $6,200 a month for just the managing the money and stuff. What if it was full management? What would the cost be for the company? For this?
I didn't figure really out that number, to be honest with you.
Because there's a lot of questions about, this happened and that happened and that happened. But if you have if the company is managing everything in the whole and it's budgeted each year, yeah, what is it? What's the?
We weren't asked to bid that at this time, so I don't have that number off the top of my head, but if the board is interested in those services, we can definitely offer full services. That's what we mainly do, yes, is full service.
What's included in the full service?
If we were to offer full service for your association, we would have, we would manage all of your staff. We would have regional manager and executive VP of management, as well as all kinds of other people within our company that would be responsible for handling your day-to-day operations. So it would be more full service than what we were offered just with the financials. So, and we're happy to do that if the board ever chooses to do that in the future.
We've got about 15 more minutes of questions, just so everybody knows. Okay, I have a question.
Yes.
If a mistake is made on your part,
Yes.
do you absorb the cost to correct it?
Yes.
100%?
100%.
Thank you.
Yes. Any other questions?
I have a question. They'll hear me, don't worry. So if I'm understanding this right, all you're going to be doing is creating a financial for us, correct? Because we are still inputting all of the information, we're still coding all of the invoices, we're still controlling where the money's coming from, whether that's the operating or the reserves or whatever. We are still doing that. All you're doing is taking the information that we're giving you and you're creating a financial. Wouldn't it make more sense for us to update our own accounting system and create our own financial?
I don't know any associations that use QuickBooks.
Well, I didn't say QuickBooks, I said update our accounting program. QuickBooks we've outgrown,
I
I
don't know how you
understand
want me
that.
to answer that, because that's.
Well, I know, I don't wanna say, we don't need you, but it's like, you're just, you're like the second pair of eyes for everything that we're doing. You're not really doing anything.
Well, we're also managing your staff for payroll as well, so we're handling staff and HR issues and all those kinds of things as well.
Hello? How are all the financial issues with the clubs gonna be handled?
It would be handled the same way as it's handled now. We would produce financials that would include whatever expenses are handled through the club, and it would be broken out based on your budget. They're not in your budget? Okay. I've not seen a financial, so it's difficult for me to answer financial questions. Sorry.
I would just like to reiterate, for people who aren't quite sure. So you stated earlier that there wouldn't be a change to our monthly fees, but that has not been determined by the board or the residents yet, isn't that correct?
I don't know, to be honest with you. That information was not to me, so I don't know where you're at in that stage. Just, talking with your board, understanding that they're giving, I guess. I don't know.
Right, but that hasn't been approved yet by the residents, that's all I'm saying. So we really don't know if there'll be an increase. It is possible, based on the figures you've already given us, approximately $3 a piece just for that, which isn't the end of the world. But people need to understand that everything that you'll be doing, making another pair of eyes for us, you're still being directed by our board. You only can be as effective as our board is. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
To answer the question about the clubs really have nothing to do with the finances in here, just to set the record straight. They are all individual, they all have their own EIN number, so any monies from the clubs are on the clubs. It does not have anything really to do with Brookridge, except for donated funds, which is given to Brookridge by the clubs.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. Yes, I think the gentleman in the far, far back.
So, I'm just trying to get this straight. It's $6,200 a month for this service. In other words, we'd be almost increasing our pay fee. We'd have to come up with $26.29 per household. So that's $76 what we pay now to pay for you and what we have now. And so it's almost 50% increase. And I think a lot of people say it's counting like that. The other thing is you said about the embezzlement and stuff like that. It's been my experience that there's embezzlement. The board of the responsible people usually don't publicize it. In fact, if it happened, it's swept under the rug. You find out about it later because it's embarrassing to people in charge because it happened on their watch. So it's like you said, you're gonna refer to the board. A lot of people want to know how come there's embezzlement found out it's not reported. Just don't see the general membership and say, and then report to you. We could get an information from you, so we could eliminate the possibility that the board keeps it from us. Because that's what some people worry about. We're talking about embezzlement happening all the time. One of the reasons it happens is because it hasn't been somebody that the board makes the decision to prosecute, not to prosecute. I know instances where people stolen hundreds of thousands of dollars from groups like the Girl Scouts and stuff like that, put money and stuff like that, and they never saw the light of day. And when the person was prosecuted, offered probation, no jail time, no probation, but taking hundreds of thousands of dollars. In Miami County, we just had an investment, the Humane Society, the animals, and $2 million once.
Thank you, Bob, but we're talking about our finances things.
Well, I'm just worried about if it happens here, are you gonna report it to us, or are you gonna report it to the people who should have been catching it in the first place?
That would be up to the board. We can't just arbitrarily do things without permission. Yes.
I would just like to reiterate that I think as a community that we would be foolish not to hire a financial company. We've been going on with this, guys, for years. I mean, when we save more money than we're losing, I mean, that's what we really have to look at. I mean, if we spend this money, is it gonna save us money? Are we not gonna bankrupt our own community, you guys? We really need to think about it. I'm just saying, thank you.
Maybe one last question as so we can wrap it up.
Go ahead.
Hi, I just had a question because I am hearing the same thing over and over again. So,
My closer.
okay.
Oh, okay.
So my question is, do you see traditionally as things smooth out and finances start to really reveal themselves truly where you're at as a community, are you able to save money in staffing because you're picking up a lot of that slack?
There could be efficiencies that we find, and then it would be up to the board if they would like to condense down some of the current systems that are in place. But yes, sometimes when we come in, it's not uncommon for us to find efficiencies where things just don't take quite as long to do. And especially because a lot of things are going to be done in our main office as far as financial information. So a lot of that's going to be taken from here and done in our office.
Because I do see that happening, that
Sure.
there's kind of overlap going on. What
Sure.
you're doing there was probably being done here,
Right.
and maybe that doesn't need to be done anymore.
And that's typically what we find when we come into a community, that there are ways that we can provide efficiencies, and then that saves the association money.
Right. Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, I have a question. Hello? I have,
You keep saying that you need permission from the board for us to have access to all the documents. Isn't there a way that we can mandate that we do have access without saying that the board is the only one that has it?
We
it's
take
our
direction.
money, it's our community,
Sure.
and because of what's happened in the past, we'd like to see all the figures. And
Okay.
where the money's going.
Well, it's up to the board. We can't make that decision for the board. So the board is hired by the members to, they're voted in. So the board is voted in to make decisions like that. So it's really up to the board how they want to handle things going forward. We can't just arbitrarily make decisions for them.
If you became the management company, would we have access to everything at that point?
Well, you always have access because Florida statute requires that if you make a records request, that you can request the documents of anything, except things that are attorney-client privilege and certain other documents that are not entitled by owners. But, you can make official records request and then you could get any documents that you want anytime now.
Thank you. I think that the next company is out in the waiting room waiting, and we did say we'd shut everything off at 11, so.
I have just one quick question, please. Who makes the final decision whether you get hired or not? The community or the board?
The board. Yes. I really appreciate you having me today. Thank you so much. It was good to see some of you again. I saw you a couple of years ago when we were here before. So thank you so much for having us. And we really appreciate you taking time out of your day. Thank you so much.
Okay, everybody, if we can go ahead and grab our seats, we're getting ready to kick this off so we can allow as much time as possible. The next company that will be doing their presentation this morning is Access Management Group. With Access Management, we have Michael Lassiter up front here. We have Michelle Keaston and Amanda Whitney will be with us in just a second. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Michael. And as before, feel free to ask questions, raise your hand, we'll get a microphone to you. We do appreciate your time. Thank you so much. And
thank you, David. Good morning. My name is Michael Laster. I'm the Senior Vice President with Access Management. Here with me is Michelle Keaston, our CFO. Amanda Whitney is our Regional Director for the Tampa market. So what I thought I would do is kind of go through a little introduction of Access as a company. And if anybody can't hear me, please let me know. Or if I need to repeat anything, feel free to interrupt or just raise your hand and say I have a question about something. I did get a list of questions from one of the board members yesterday, so we kind of incorporated those questions and answers into the presentation. So I don't know, whatever the board's preference is, we can kind of pause and answer questions throughout, or we can go through the questions presented by the membership and then proceed from there. Maybe.
And Michael, we can take it at your pace. However you
Okay.
want to open it up for questions along the way, or do it however you like.
I think you're gonna point.
Is it broken?
It's probably too far. So anyways, we'll wing it.
I'll stand over here.
Okay. You went a little far, but that's okay.
Oh, you want me to go back?
All right. Well, you probably can't read what's up there. I know it's a little bit small, so we'll kind of talk through it. Access Management was founded in 2008. Our corporate office is in Celebration, Florida. One of the things that we were founded on is in the hospitality business. Our sister company is Access Hotels and Resorts. So we've worked for many years in the public space for several publicly traded REITs. We manage hotels, boutiques, and we've got 7 hotels under ownership that we also manage. So that was kind of the beginning to our start in the community association world. We had a property out in Los Angeles, 700 unit condominium. One of the owners there actually invited us out to meet with Pulte. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with Pulte Homes, but they're a large builder here. They build Del Webbs and other single family communities. So we came out in 2008, met with Pulte, and they awarded us our first contract in the community association world. That was back in 2008. We managed about 17 properties at that time, close to 4,000 units in total between the 17 communities. Fast forward to today, we manage about 320 associations ranging in size from about 20 units to our largest is Coosawattee in Georgia, 6,000 acres. There's about 7,000 units in that community. So pretty much a small city, similar to this community, lots of owners, lots of activities, things going on. One of the things that we really like to focus on in the individual communities is they're all different. From Georgia to South Carolina to North Carolina, we've got properties as far south as Naples. So we're kind of in the lower region of the East Coast. We like to focus on what's important to you as owners, as well as board members. I find that in a lot of situations, management companies try to tell the community, this is how you manage. Now, certainly we've got processes when it comes to accounting, operations, lifestyle, dealing with board meetings and annual meetings, we've got certain procedures. However, what's important is to understand what the residents want. And I always tell our managers, every resident is a potential board member. And as soon as you consider it from that perspective, you understand the importance of each voice within the community. I'm a huge proponent of meeting with residents. We do in some of our communities like this, we'll do monthly meetings with the management team to solicit input. Same thing with the board. We meet with the board and do workshops to understand some of the needs or wants of the board. And then we try to marriage the two together so that we can achieve both what the residents are looking for as well as the objectives of the board. So I'll go through kind of a brief overview of some of our services. I know that this is geared towards an accounting focused contract, but I think it's important to understand kind of what our depth is as a company. So I mentioned earlier, we manage about 320 associations ranging in size from 20 units to about 7,000. We're up to about 72,000 units under management in total. So we're a pretty good sized management company. We've got roughly 375 employees. Of the 375, there's about 50 or so that are dedicated to accounting functions. So if you go to the next slide. Again, this is something we pride ourselves on, the access difference. We believe in going above and beyond to deliver excellent service to our communities. And that's from the board level, to the committee, to the homeowner level. Treating people the way you want to be treated, as we all know the golden rule. That's extremely important to us and part of our access difference detail. Go ahead, next slide. If you point it that way, because the computer's in the back. These are just some of our professional affiliations, both in the community association world and the hospitality industry. You'll see we're members of all of these various organizations. We believe it's important in connecting within the community. Learning is a constant thing. We're members of the Community Association Institute, so we're constantly encouraging our managers and team members to further their education in the field. Next slide. Again, talking about some of our partners in the business world, these are some of the developers that we've worked with over the years. The top 10 developers in the state of Florida, I think we work with about 8 of the 10 of them. So Pulte Homes, D.R. Horton, 4-Star, Park Square, Lennar, and the list goes on. So one of the reasons why these vendors have reached out to us for guidance in their communities is because of our expertise, not only in the association world, but also in the hospitality side of things. You'll find that people are looking for a positive experience within the community, and you don't always get that. I'm sure many of you have lived in other HOAs. One of the things that I always hear when we meet with new communities is, the HOA people, it always has like a negative connotation. They're the enforcers. They're the people trying to collect my delinquent assessments. So we try to bring the hospitality side of things to the community association world so that you have a positive experience. Certainly there's going to be times when there's challenges we can't solve, but we try to think outside of the box and find solutions that are applicable to your individual community. Go ahead, next slide. Just some of the industry credentials that we have. I got my PCAM last year. One of the goals this year is for all of our RDOs to get their PCAM. Most of our managers have their CMCA, which is a certification from Community Association Institute. Again, here just a snapshot of the number of communities we manage, the number of units, a little bit about our hotel division with the hotels and restaurants that we manage there. That's fine. We were recognized, this says 2023, but we were also recognized in 2024 as a top leader in the workplace for leadership, purpose and values, innovation, and compensation and benefits. We've got our own training department. Those individuals are fully dedicated to training our teams on site. That includes both management personnel as well as maintenance and accounting. So they focus on the basics with regards to our software, which is called Vantica for anybody who's curious. They'll do all of the Vantica training, training on our website and updates. We've got a team that deals with lifestyle, and they do training with all of your lifestyle directors. I noticed both on your website and out in the hallway, all of the events that you guys do. So our team can help elevate the events that you're throwing here and provide guidance to the team members. Yeah, just some photos of some of the events that we've planned. You gotta jump. Kidding. So one of the cool things about our software is we are able to track requests that are coming in, both by email and phone. This is just our commitment to our communities on response times. So if you have an emergency, if you have an inquiry about your account, if you've got a question about an architectural request, These are standards that we've set as a company and track within our system. Vantica's got the ability, and we have reports that we provide to the board as well as the management team to track efficiency, essentially. We want to know how long it's taking on average to respond to owner requests. These are requests that can be received either through the website, the portal, again, email or phone. So we do track those, and it's a helpful tool to make sure that we're meeting our commitments to the community. Again, our management software, we talked a little bit about Vantica. I'll show you a couple of slides later on with some of the reports.
Access AI, stop there.
I don't know if you guys are you guys using any artificial intelligence? Okay. So we've got an AI assistant, which is a phone number that you can text 24/7. The cool thing about it is you can ask questions like, when is the clubhouse open? What are the hours of the management office? Let's say you wanted to install a fence. You could email or text the system and say, I'd like an architectural request for fencing. It will send you the form back with the excerpt from your documents on what the regulations are for fencing. So it's pretty intuitive. It's essentially an assistant to the management team. We'll provide a copy of this presentation so that if the board wants to circulate it, you can actually text that number and see what it does. It's pretty cool. We're getting to the accounting. Okay, so accounts receivable. This is a huge function which is important in many of the communities. Obviously, making sure that we collect the dues is important to the operations of the association. So we've got our own collection team that deals with sending out statements. They'll handle emails and phone calls to residents to collect those outstanding assessments. And then ultimately, if we aren't able to collect it, it would go forward to the attorney and we would take legal action, as I'm sure your board is currently doing. This is just a sample of the report. If you go back one slide. So you'll see here, the board has access to this 24/7. This report shows out of the delinquent assessments, what percentage are 30 days, 60, or 90. So it kind of skews it a little bit. Looks like the assessments or the delinquency is high, but that is only the percentage of delinquency for the period and not the actual delinquency. You'll see in this community, there's only 25,000 outstanding, and the annual budget for that community is $3 million. So a very small percentage in comparison. Of course, accounts payables. I know that you're probably doing a lot of that on site. We will take over that function. So all of our invoices are received either by email or through the mail and then scanned. Once those invoices go into our system, our team is going to pre-code those invoices. They're going to assign it to the next approver. So it goes to AP clerk, then it's going to go to the manager, then it's going to go to the board and or treasurer. And then ultimately it's going to go to the controller for final release. The good thing about our payable system is we can expedite payment. A lot of times you'll hear from vendors, their biggest complaint is it takes 2 weeks or 3 weeks to get paid. We can set up all of your vendors on ACH so that payment is issued within 24 hours of final approval. So that's a huge benefit and something we really enjoy about our AP system.
Is there a charge for an ACH? Every time that's done?
There it is to the vendor. So the vendor agrees to a certain flat fee to receive that ACH, but it's nominal. If your bill was $100, I probably wouldn't do ACH, but generally there's several $1,000s and it's a few dollars. Good question. Of course, bank reconciliations, we will reconcile all of your bank accounts. This is what the board would have access to, or if you've got a finance committee, the treasurer, et cetera, they'll all have access to this. You can see here on the left is all of the bank transactions. On the right is all of the transactions that we've input into the system. And those are matched up each month. You'll see the reconciliation amounts. And then you can click, this is a photo, so you can't click it, but where it says statement, it can actually pull up the bank statement. Yes, ma'am. A lot. No, we'll get to that, that's at the end. Okay, so we did propose a monthly fee of $6,000, which would cover our accounting services. And I think you guys currently have a bookkeeper on property. So whether or not you guys would need that position, you may not need that position anymore if you opted for our services. So it might be okay. Moving on in the presentation.
Is that bank rec monthly?
Yes, we reconcile all accounts monthly.
Can't hear you.
Yes, so the reconciliations occur daily because we have a link with our bank account, and then they're reconciled by the controller at the end of each month.
Do the residents have access to it?
So we do post all financials to the portal. The bank reconciliation is generally not one that we post on the portal, but it's really up to the board. We don't have any objection to posting it. Some of our communities, we post the board financials on the portal. Yes.
Thank you. My question is, I see a lot of other companies. How many HOAs do you manage in Florida? Not condominiums, HOAs. Thank you.
So out of 320, about 80% of them are HOAs. And we manage tons of Del Webs in the state of Florida. We're one of Pulte's premier vendors for the management on the Del Web product. Okay, next slide. Again, we'll provide a variance report each month to the manager. The manager will give us input on some of the items. You'll notice here it's very simple. The U means we're unfavorable. There's a little tally at the bottom, you can read it, but the F means favorable, meaning we saved money, versus the U, we've overspent in that particular category. Here's a copy of a sample financial packet. I don't know, Amanda, if you could click the link at the bottom. Oh, go back. You'll have to do it on the laptop. Click Control and then click the link. Oh, did it open up?
It's open, but it's not.
Okay. Well, we'll share this presentation and then anybody can look at it. It's got a sample of the financial statement. So you'll see here on this list, I'll read it. We include, this is our general financial packet, balance sheet, income and expense statement, financial overview or the variance report. We include the general ledger, the accounts receivables, prepaid assessments, accounts payable, the check register, the bank reconciliation with the bank statement. Sometimes people provide the reconciliation, not the statement. And then we do have other reports that generally our boards will request, or sometimes the finance committee, they want to see a cash analysis so that we can project, expenses moving forward. Yes, and the attorney report. Okay, next slide. A big part of what we do in accounting, which would be part of this process here, is the budget preparation. We do a budget summit every year at one of our properties. We invite all of our managers, all of our controllers. Last year, we had about 125 people there. We go through what our internal budget process is, all of the reports that we use, your annual contract matrix. So any vendor that you have will be put on a list. We'll estimate what increases there may or may not be. We use this as an opportunity to bid contracts. Sometimes you'll find, we've had the same vendor for 10 years and nobody ever questions whether or not we're getting a good rate. So this is a good opportunity for us to bid that out and see what's available to the community. And that's all part of the budget process. So we'll prepare the initial draft of the budget. That's presented to the finance committee and or the board treasurer. We'll tweak it. We usually do a town hall in every community, so residents get an opportunity to give input or ask questions. Again, trying to involve the residents as well as the board and committees in the process. And then this just goes through what our process is internally. You'll see the town hall meeting, then we do the budget meeting, all the preparation. And then we prepare, of course, the board packet and e-blast out all the information so that everybody has it leading up to the budget meeting. Management fees we talked about, if you go to the next slide. We estimated it at $2.12 a door for the accounting services. I know there was a mention in one of the emails or questions about payroll. So we could talk to the board or whoever about what that additional cost may be to do the payroll. I wasn't quite sure how it's handled currently, if you're just paying them directly or they're actually employees, through a payroll company. So we didn't give a cost on that. Okay, next slide. Keep going. Okay, so these are the questions that were submitted by the residents. How many employees are in your accounting division? Are they bonded? What credentials? What functions will they provide on site? And will we submit records for our annual audit? So we have over 50 employees in our accounting department. All of our employees are insured under our fidelity coverage. We've got $5 million in coverage per occurrence. We do have CPAs on staff. However, your assigned controller or staff accountant would not necessarily be a CPA. Let's see. Most of our owners pay electronically. We do offer the ability for those of you that use bill pay, you can mail a check to our lockbox. Or in some cases, you guys might drop checks off here in the management office. We can provide a check scanner to the on-site staff for that process.
No cash.
No cash, preferably. We like to come up with alternative solutions because what we tend to find is even with committees, the cash disappears or somebody didn't write it down on the register and now somebody's upset because we've lost their payment. It's fine, leave it here. One of the other questions was, will we prepare all the financial records for your CPA? The answer is yes. Our accounting team will gather all documents necessary to file the annual tax returns and also complete the annual audit. Go back. How are journal entries documented and approved? Journal entries are handled by the assigned controller and an audit trail is available. So in our system, you cannot delete any sort of journal entry or transaction. The only option is to reverse it and it shows a log of everything that's occurred with that transaction. What process do we use to deposit member funds? If we collect and deposit funds from members, will we allocate separate operating reserve and donation accounts? And will they be protected by FDIC insurance? You mentioned interest rates and cash receipts. So owner funds are received, as I mentioned, primarily electronically through our lockbox services. We do separate your operating and reserve accounts. Obviously, if you've got donations or committee funds, those will be held in separate funds. All of the funds are FDIC insured. Any accounts exceeding $250,000 will be held in separate financial institutions, or we use the ICS, which is insured cash sweep. So you can exceed the limit and the bank will transfer monies in and out of various banks so that no one bank has over $250,000 in funds, making sure all monies are insured. For reserve accounts or what we consider idle operating funds, we maintain these funds in high interest money market accounts or laddered CDs. We've got some that are as much as 5%. Obviously that interest is going to vary based on the federal rates and the market. But that's something that we do offer as a part of our accounting services. How often do we reconcile the books? We mentioned this earlier, we reconcile them monthly, but there are daily reconciliations that occur with the link between our management system and our banking partner. Let's see. Okay, so this question is regarding payroll and whether or not we would upload each pay period. The board does receive a copy of the payroll for the period. And we do have reports that we can provide showing the hours and wages of each individual employee. I don't know if this is kind of a question mark because I don't know what you're doing currently. So we could certainly show the board or whatever committee how our process works. One of the things that we offer, which you all may not be able to offer, is our benefit package. We've got great insurance for health. We've got time off. We've got 401k match, all kinds of benefits that typically equate to longevity with your employees. Sometimes you'll find when the benefits aren't great, people will leave for, a 50-cent raise because the property up the street is paying more. So we believe it's important to invest in the benefits of those employees. What controls do you employ monitoring fraud? So we've got a detailed financial control policy. There's a link there that you can click and view it, but it covers our internal processes, the various approvals that are required in order to pay a vendor. And then we've got 2 signatures that are always required on any payment. If it's electronic, then there's 4 approvals that have to be issued for the payment to go out. And then if you have, let's say we're doing a wire, there are 2 separate individuals within the bank, including our CFO, that must approve that wire transfer. Again, sample of a financial report, there's a link there to the reports, which you guys can look at later. So if a member requests official documents, would they be provided with a balance sheet, profit and loss, or detail on an expense account? Absolutely. We believe in transparency, so anything that a member is entitled to, we're happy to send. Generally, we send those responses by email because it expedites it and we have it available electronically. Every now and again, you'll have communities where they want residents to come and review it in person. We're able to do that as well, but that would be handled by the manager on site as opposed to our accounting team. You mentioned operating funds. You've got an operating, a reserve, and a donation fund. We do provide separate funds for every account. So that would be nothing different than you're doing currently. Do we determine which funds repairs are paid out of, the reserve account, for example, or does the local office code these? So we pre-code invoices and then the local team, which would be the GM or community manager, would verify the code's correct. Often we've got to work with the manager and the board because the board may say, you know what, this is actually a reserve item. Let's pay it out of reserves rather than operating. And so sometimes there's more people involved than just our accounting staff to make that decision. And then this was an interesting question. I don't know who asked it, but for reserve expenses, do we debit or credit expense or equity? So the proper way would be when we're funding reserves that are in the budget, we expense the budgeted amount. So when you see it in your profit and loss statement, you're going to see an expense. We then debit your cash account, which increases the cash, and we credit the reserve liability, which increases the liability line on your balance sheet. For reserve expenditures, meaning we're going to pay to resurface the floors, and that's going to be paid out of reserves, we'll credit the cash account and debit the reserve liability. This is again a question about whether or not the CAM or the board is responsible for coding. The CAM is responsible for coding invoices. The board has the opportunity to approve if they choose to do so. Some of our boards approve, sometimes it's just the treasurer. Depends on what is set up initially with the board. We don't use purchase orders. We do use work orders, but we do have the ability, if this is something you're using currently for purchase orders, we do have the ability to do that within our system. Let's see. What is the procedure for signing checks? Again, checks are signed electronically through various approvals. The board will have access to bank accounts online as well as our financial system. A lot of times boards want to know, what's actually in the bank account. Although our system syncs instantly with the bank. It's a constant feed. The board has the ability to log in and actually view the bank account balances on the bank's website. Accounts receivable. Will the board get a list of members over 90 days? And will we provide assistance in pursuing the liens? And then the third question being, will we process estoppels? So of course, we provide AR reports monthly. We do issue notices of intent to lien. We do not lien the properties. We leave that up to the attorneys to handle that portion of the collection process. But prior to that occurring, we do email or call the owner, provided we have that contact information, to try to receive payment or set up a payment plan. Sometimes you'll find, and this is very prevalent in active adult communities, where people go out of town, they didn't get the bill, they forgot about it. Sometimes people are ill and didn't receive the notice. So I think it's important that we go the extra step to reach out to residents to find out why they didn't pay. Sometimes there's a serious situation that if we were aware of, we would maybe not send it directly to the attorney and say, okay, Mr. Smith, we understand your wife's sick. You've been in the hospital the last 30 days. When can you get us a payment? Sorry about that. If a member prepays their assessment annually, do we utilize a prepaid assessment account? And is it possible to refund overpaid assessments if the property is sold? The answer is yes. We do track prepaid assessments. That's included in your monthly financial reports. And yes, if an owner has overpaid, we can refund the previous owner at the time of closing. So we'll get the closing paperwork, we'll issue a refund to the previous owner through the period of closing, and then we'll bill the new owner from the date of closing forward. Will we be able to electronically connect delinquent accounts to our code enforcement department? So this was a little bit tricky. I don't know what you're doing presently, but if your compliance team is looking to see if somebody's delinquent as they're issuing compliance letters, we can give them access to our system to see what the status is in our system. I wasn't sure if that was really what the question was or not, but we can provide access to the compliance committee to see that information. How much of our accounting records will you upload in our system? Where are the records backed up? And will we have access to those records if the relationship ends? So generally, as a part of our transition process, we're gonna load 2 years of your financials on our portal. We realize that in Florida statute, you're supposed to have 7 years available. We can load those, but there may be an additional cost to load the additional files. If you have it in a PDF or electronic format, then it's fairly easy. We can drag and drop it into those financial folders. But generally 2 years. All of the records are available to both the association and the board if our relationship is severed. We will provide a Dropbox link with all of your records. Electronically, anything paper format would typically be held on site. Okay, how about other questions?
How long is the contract?
Generally, we do an annual contract with a 2-year renewal. And a 30-day, we believe in the services that we provide, so we generally have either a 30 or 60-day out clause. So even if you signed a 3-year agreement and you weren't happy in year 2, you could issue a termination and we would, honor it.
Question.
Yes.
You said that we wouldn't necessarily get a CPA. And I believe the other company said that they would provide us with the CPA. So I'm not comfortable with that. And my other question is you had mentioned that, I don't know your exact words, but we may not need our bookkeeper if you took over.
Correct.
Could you please explain that in more depth?
Okay, so the first question on the CPA. Most accounting firms have a CPA, much like we have a CPA. The CPA is not the one doing your monthly financials. So I would confirm with the previous vendor who was here, whether a CPA is actually going to be doing your financials. That's typically not the case. A question 2 was regarding the bookkeeper. A lot of the functions that we provide are things that your bookkeeper is currently doing. So that may not be a position you need. It could be something that you realign that individual to do something else.
I have one more question.
Sure.
Do you have the capability to provide us with a forensic audit?
We do not do forensic audits. We could partner you with a CPA firm that we work with that does forensic audits. Generally, your audit is done by an outside company because we're doing the financials, so we cannot give you an audit of our own books. Yeah.
When you spoke about setting up a payment plan for delinquent accounts, so you have the authority to set up, you would have the authority to set up a payment plan, like Mr. Smith says, well, I can start giving you $20 a month, $10 a month, whatever. You would have that authority versus, do you consult with our board? Do you get approval for anybody for that?
Yeah, so as a part of our setup process, we will establish a collection policy, which gives us the authority to set up payment plans with these parameters. So generally, it's a payment plan of up to 6 months. If the owner has been delinquent for 10 years, that's a different situation. They're probably already at the attorney, and we would work with the board on a reasonable payment plan in that situation. If it's somebody who's not at the attorney, generally 6 to 12 month payment plan, and they can't get further behind on dues. So if your monthly dues are $50, they can't say, well, I'm gonna pay $40 a month, because they're just gonna get further behind.
Did I understand you to say that you're going to handle the invoices for expenditures and do the coding in your company? It won't be done in-house here.
We will pre-code invoices. The manager is ultimately responsible to verify it's in the correct spot.
So we have an expenditure for tree removals. You would code that?
Correct.
Okay.
We would review the budget and see where that falls within the budget, code it, and then when it gets sent to the manager for approval, the manager will verify, yes, this is where I want it paid out of. I think we got a question over here.
You said your monthly fee is $6,000 a month,
Yes.
so $72,000 a year. If you take a 1-year contract, the following year that the contract comes up, what kind of a percentage increase is it normally?
So generally, it's about 3 to 5%, depending on the services. Generally the first year, we're kind of getting to know you all and vice versa. And so sometimes there's things that occur which might be within the normal scope of work. And then the board might say, well, you know what, we want these additional things that maybe aren't included in what we're providing. So we may renegotiate the fee depending on what additional items are requested. But generally 3 to 5%. Anybody else?
So if you're saying when you're looking for, you're gonna code things, you're gonna look at our line items in our budget. Let me ask you this question. In our 24 budget, or in the 25, which didn't get approved, there is no line item for a finance management company. So how is that gonna work? Because in order to pay you, would there not have to be a line item?
No, it does not have to be a line item. Your budget is a guide. So what we would do is work with the board to identify areas that we might be able to save money to cover the cost of our services. So ours would probably fall under, if you've got a line that says accounting services, something of that sort, we put it there. Otherwise, we could create a miscellaneous line to track our fees separately.
Okay, so if our line items for accounting fees, and that are coming nowhere near, we're going to have to get creative in order to cover your expenditures.
Sometimes.
And that creativity could mean cutting things, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, and that will show in the variance report that there's an expense there that wasn't budgeted.
Good morning. So your contractual agreements are yearly?
Yes.
Okay, so you can guarantee us that every year we will have a 3 to 5% increase, is that correct?
No, it's gonna depend. Sometimes what happens is year one, we get to the renewal period and the board says, we want a 3-year contract. What can you do as far as the rate? So we negotiate with the board on, what the rate should be and if it's appropriate. In some cases, we've not increased at all. It just depends. Obviously, if we increase 3 to 5% every year, it could get quite expensive 10 years from now.
Thank you.
Quick question. So basically where the money is coming out of, that's going to still be bottom line determined by our board. So in other words, if our board said to you, let's do this repair, but we're gonna use general operating, you would follow through on that even though it should be reserves. Who's making that final decision? You, this company, or our board makes a decision where the funds are actually coming from?
So that's always gonna be left up to the board. We are a vendor of the board and we can make a recommendation. I'll tell you, maybe I'll give it to you in a different perspective. So let's say, for example, I don't know, we wax the floors here in the building and the board says, oh, let's charge it to reserves. We're gonna make it known that waxing the floors is a maintenance item and not a reserve item. And if the board is adamant that they wanna pay it out of reserves, we will note that in our report. So generally, that doesn't happen. Our boards, for the most part, take our advice, but there are boards that say, oh, just pay it out of there. But hopefully that doesn't happen because we would be the ones to say, maybe we should not renew this contract because they're not listening to our professional advice.
What bank do you use?
We've got about 20 banks. Our primary being Alliance and First Horizon.
So our operating would be out of one of those?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. She mentioned the reserves would likely be with one of those banks because they're paying higher rates for CDs and money markets than your local box stores. Yes?
Were you here for the other presentation or part of it?
No.
Okay, I just wondered what, could you say that would set you apart from other companies?
I think one of the things that sets us apart the most is our team. Our team cares. If you look, and I know you don't know our team members, but I'll give you an example. I've worked with Amanda for close to 15 years since her and I started in this business. We've got employees on our accounting team that have 12 years of tenure with our company. And I'm sure if you talk to other companies, you won't find a lot of that. People come and go every other year. There's constant change. We've got a great core team, and that's what's helped us grow. We don't, we're not First Service. We're not some of these other nationwide providers. All of our business has come from word of mouth from our residents and our board members. And to me, that's the highest form of a compliment, is that they think so highly of us in this community that they refer us to other communities. I'm confused. Amanda, I was on a presentation yesterday and I asked our regional how we got the lead. And the president at that community owns in another community down south that we manage. And so he said, well, I like what you do here, and that's why we invited you here, which was up in Palm Coast. So, I think it's important to have good people to work with. We're flexible. While we do have our policies and procedures, we have to realize that each community is unique, and we're pretty adapted to the uniqueness of each community. And we have better technology. Well, we have AI. I recently saw one of our competitors announce their AI tool, and I laughed in the presentation yesterday, and the board said, well, what's so funny? And I said, well, I hate to tell you, but we've had AI for 5 years. So if you're announcing it now, you're behind the times. Our phone system, we use Zoom phones. The phone system, we're the first company to integrate the Zoom phone system with our management software. And that was at our request. So we believe in being efficient, finding ways that we can do things better. And I think that's the other thing that sets us apart. We're not afraid to try something new. A lot of times companies will say, well, why do we need to do that? This works. Well, there's always a better way to do it in my mind. Yes. We've not had that happen. We would fire the employee for one, and her question was, what would we do if there was fraud within the community? Generally, what we would do is we would get counsel involved, and we would do an investigation with the CPA firm to verify what was or wasn't happening, and then you'd bring the authorities in. We would ask and this has happened, we've had board members, I'll give you an example of a board member who was using the company credit card, but the credit card statement went to his house. So he had controlled it for years and years. We took over and I said, okay, well now we need to receive the statements and do the reconciliations every month. Just like our managers reconcile their transactions, we need to know what it's for, who was paid, what expense code. And there were all these charges for gift cards. And so I called the president and I said, look, we're not gonna have this conversation twice. This appears like you're getting gift cards for who knows. This is not an association expense. We're gonna take the credit card away or we're gonna terminate your contract. He ended up resigning. But it does happen, unfortunately. We do have things in place to prevent that. But every now and again, you'll find people get relatively creative.
I have a question real quick. Can you explain when you said about the Zoom phone calls with the management software? Can you explain that a little bit?
Yes, so as an example, if you were to call into our system, our Zoom phone system is integrated with the management system and will pull up your account. So the person on the phone already knows you have an open violation, you have a delinquency letter that was just issued, you called in about a maintenance work order. All of that comes up at the touch of a button. The other benefit of that is there are other companies that will notate phone calls or interactions with residents. The problem is you're relying on the employee to do that. It's a little bit more difficult when you have to type in a name, find the account, go to the notes section. In ours, the notes section is there right when the call comes in. They could just type in, I spoke with Mr. Smith. He was upset about the neighbor's dog barking. So that integration makes a huge difference, and it's a time saver for our team as well.
Your slides that you're showing, those are from your website where we can go in and...
No, this is a presentation that we did for the community, so we'll share that with the board, and I would assume they would share it with the membership.
If the board decides to terminate the contract before the time is up, is there a termination fee?
The only fee would be this, like if we required a 60-day notice, they would have to pay the 60-day notice, like that, period. But there's no actual separate termination fee.
You just mentioned something about a resident calling up and doing the Zoom as far as a complaint or whatever. If you're just doing our financials, you wouldn't be handling any type of complaints like that. It would just be a resident calling to check on their accounts.
Correct, but we could look at the existing phone systems you have and possibly upgrade them to our system. We still would be taking calls related to your individual accounts. So if you got a delinquency letter, you would be calling us for assistance.
But nothing else.
Compliance, no, not at this point.
What are you gonna do about our computers? They do work most of the time.
Upgrade it. Yeah, I would, most of our properties have old desktops. I would probably recommend, upgrading to laptops, maybe upgrading to a voice over IP phone system like Zoom. It reduced the cost significantly. If you've got landlines, we could guide the board and the team on that process. Yes, that would always be a community expense to upgrade laptops and phones that serve your community in particular. But our IT team could help launch that and, execute it.
I wanted to say something also about the software that you mentioned. So if you guys were using us for accounting, you guys can pay off like your phone, you can call up or anything. So like the software that they're using for property stuff wouldn't affect anything to do with accounting.
So if we do the Zoom, you said we upgrade our phone system again, that would be an extra cost to us, is that correct?
Yeah, but you would have that cost no matter who you upgraded
Okay,
with.
thank you.
But because our accounting and management software is combined, the on-site team could use the compliance portion of our software. I don't know what you're using currently to send violations, but you would have the ability to use our system, the on-site team, to do that.
Okay, there's 5 more minutes for questions.
Yes.
We deal with all of them.
Did we just sign a new agreement with Spectrum? It's fairly typical in master plan communities, so unfortunately, we've got to manage it. I would say if the service levels aren't what we expected, maybe we go back to Spectrum and see what options are available.
And there's other companies, I know I met with a fiber team a couple of weeks ago who stopped in the office. I mean, they'll come in if you don't already have, certain options, and they'll put the cost to make that available to the community, and they'll buy out contracts. I mean, there's ways, there's things that can be done. You're not stuck.
Any more questions?
Well, we appreciate the opportunity. Thank you guys for having us. We've left some swag for any of you who want it. There's chapstick, which is good, pens, grocery, the reusable bags, and there's some donuts out in the hallway. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for attending today. There were 2 presentations, as you know. We are going to work on getting that information out to our residents. Give us a moment to figure out how to get that out there to you, and look forward to information about next steps. So thank you for your time.